Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another weekly edition of the show live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Should be a fun one. I mean, Mikey Garcia lost to my countryman, Sandro Martin. It's a proud day to be a Spaniard. That's all I gotta say, Gary. I now understand, Gary, how you feel watching like Match from Italy cards. It's like, yes, I can feel that now. That pride. Shakur Stevenson absolutely dominated Jamel Herring. I mean, Jesus Christ, that was devastating. I mean, is Shakur Stevenson the future of boxing in that weight class, in that weight range? I don't know. Can't wait to dissect that one. We have some boxing, obviously, that happened in the last couple weeks. Boxing coming up this weekend, and some news throughout the world. Canelo Alvarez shitting on Ryan Garcia. That's fucking hilarious. I know Gary's going to love to dive into that one and psychoanalyze Canelo saying that Ryan Garcia is wasting his talent. Damn, that's harsh. But so much to get into on today's show. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. Without further ado, let me get to my co-host, the one and only Gary in Dallas. Gary, how are you?
I actually don't think there's much to psychoanalyze. I think Canelo said what he thinks. I think he thinks Ryan Garcia's wasting years of his prime. And he'll never get back. Like, there's no secret cows to slay. Like, that's it. That's what he thinks. I'm watching the AIBA World Champions. And there's an Italian boxer named Vincenzo Mangiacarpa, which literally translates to he eats goats. It's an interesting last name.
Well, dude, he eats goats, man. Like, he's the goat eater.
I can't blame him. I mean, goats are disgusting animals. That's what you have.
Whoa. Goat meat's delicious. Like, you don't like lamb either?
No, I like lamb. Have you ever seen a goat in its natural habitat?
Gary, have you seen a cow in its natural habitat?
It eats grass and protein.
And has shit all over it all the time?
Goats eat like cans and rocks and tennis balls.
Mm-hmm.
Goats are disgusting.
Dude, goat tacos, the fucking bomb. So good.
If that's what you have, eat it. They're disgusting animals.
So good. Scott Brown is saying there's an echo on it. I don't know what that could be. What about now? Is the echo gone? Gary, can I hear you?
Is the echo gone?
Now I can't hear Gary. Hold on. Let me try this. Gary, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, let's see if that fixed the echo. Scott, let me know. Frank over on Twitch, let me know how the sound is. Because I don't hear it on my end. So Gary hears it on his end, allegedly. I don't know what it could.
Anymore.
You don't hear it anymore? Did I fix it?
No,
Maybe I fixed it. Let me know in the chat, guys. But anyways, yes, goat tacos are fantastic. Digressing back to the GOAT, Sandro Martin. Let's be honest here, Gary. That's going to be like the bulk of this show, is me just shitting on Mikey Garcia. Because, wow. I mean, not only was this a massive tune-up, one that everyone made fun of him for, but he almost didn't win a round, it felt like, Gary. Like, it was one of those fights where, like, he looked so piss-poor in, so uninterested in, that I had a hard time giving him rounds. Like, maybe, like, 1 or 2 rounds. And Sandro Martin just danced around him and just threw more and landed more. And that was all he had to do, apparently. Gary, what happened to Mikey Garcia, man? A guy that was pound for pound, at the top, unified champion, multiple division champion. You know, what is it, 3-division champion, right? Like, 4. Isn't he 4? At 126, 131.
4.
Yeah, I think he's a 4-division champion. I mean, what the hell happened here? Gary, thoughts?
I don't know. He looked uninterested. Like he couldn't cut the ring off on him, and he was just going to lose all the rounds. Like I had one rounds in that. I really lost. But they were winning. I didn't get that. There's no way he won enough rounds to win that fight. He didn't win the fight. I don't know why his team thought that. Robert Garcia has been in around enough boxing to know that even if he thought Mikey may have been winning some rounds, he wasn't clearly winning. Okay? Those rounds were very debatable at best for Mikey Garcia. Why they told him he was winning? I mean, I truly believe they thought that. I just can't imagine how Robert Garcia thought that, right? Like, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't cut the ring off. He couldn't out jab him. Like, there was not much he could do, and he never really stepped on the gas. I mean, he tried to step on the gas a little bit, but he couldn't get in front of him. The body punching that makes Mikey infamous, the timing, none of it really seemed like it was there. Like, I don't know if Mikey maybe lost it. He's in his 30s now. Maybe he lost it all at once. And they're still talking about him fighting Regis Prograis, which is fine, but who's going to win that fight now? We all know who's going to win it. It's not any suspense to it. The fight was fine. I mean, Sandor Martinez is fine. The opponent is fine. I don't think Martinez is going to be a world champion or anytime soon, which tells you where Mikey is. I can't hear you at all, Matt.
What about now, Gary?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I hope we're having some technical issues. People in the chat, keep letting us know how it sounds. If it sounds bad, please let me know. I'll try to fix it. I mean, there's no way Mikey beats anyone at 147 that's in the top 10. There's no way he beats anyone in the top 10 even at 140 right now, I would pick, right? Like, maybe against guys that can have off nights, so to speak, like Cepeda, for example. Like, he can have off nights and maybe Mikey beats him. But Mikey looks way too big for this weight class in terms of his fat consistency. He doesn't look impressive at all. I mean, I am quite worried about Mikey's future as you are, Gary. I don't know where he goes from here. Like, even if he cuts, like, all the weight goes back to 135, which I thought, like, he topped out. That was probably his best weight to stay at, and he didn't stay in that weight class. I don't think it would be healthy for him to lose all this weight and then go fight the Murderer's Row now that is at 135. Like, Mikey is in no man's land now. And I think this was his last fight with Matchroom, right, Gary? Mm-hmm. What the hell happens with him? Who picks him up? I mean, people are gonna pick him up because he's Mikey, and he's gonna be a guy you can put on a main event. We know that, but I'm assuming his pay is gonna be decreased because of this loss. I mean, he's entering the free agency in terms of promotional contracts now at his lowest possible value. Right, Gary?
Agreed. And I don't think there was anything fluky about the loss. Like, Martin just outboxed him. Like, I don't know, maybe Mikey can make some adjustments and beat him in a rematch, but he's not going to dominate him. He's not going to blow him out. Like, there was nothing fluky or weird about that fight. It was just Martin outboxed him.
Yeah. Scott Brown in the chat is saying Tank versus Mike at 140. LOL. I mean,
okay, I like the LOL part. Yeah.
But I mean, Gary, you telling me that you wouldn't pick Tank right now?
I'd pick Tank to stop him. I'd pick Tank by stoppage.
I mean, that's how far he has declined. It's weird. Like, I don't know what this is. And this isn't like a one-off, right? Like, Mikey at 147 has been a greatly diminished version of himself. I mean, there's been 0 fights at 147 that I've seen him go, you know what? That's Mikey that went and demolished Zlaticanin or Robert Easter Jr. or Orlando Salido. Like, no, that Mikey is not there. I don't see it, Gary. Like, I don't know where he goes. And I mean, he can't be that old. I mean, how old is Mikey Garcia, Gary? He's got to be
early 30s, 32.
I mean, there's no way he should be burnt out at this point in time. He's had breaks in his career too. Like, he's
33.
He's had a multiple year layoff before due to managerial issues. But I mean, this is a guy that I don't know where he goes from here, to be quite honest. Gary, any other thoughts on Mikey?
Again, it can't be 147. I don't think he can make 135. Although I don't like him at 135 anymore either. Not with the Murderers Row at 135. So where does it go? It's got to be 140, right? You picking him to beat Josh Taylor or Regis Prograis?
No, not
Fight
at
that
all.
I like is Mikey versus Barrios. Do it at like 144. You could do it in San Antonio. It'll sell big because I was in Dallas. I was at the Spence fight. He's got a big following in Texas. Like they love him. Him. He's fought in Texas a lot. He's fought in San Antonio, the Alamo Dome, not the Alamo Dome, the AT&T Center, whatever they call it, the other little venue. Still holds 15,000. But I don't think I'm not picking him to win any of these fights. Like he's not beating Barrios. He's not beating Prograis. He's not beating. Well, he wouldn't fight Ramirez. He's not fighting. He's not beating Taylor. So, I mean, if you get him a belt, it's because Taylor left the division and he got a vacant belt, right? I mean, he's not beating anyone at the top of the divisions. He's not. You know what I'm saying? There's only one champion in the division right now. It's Taylor. And he's not beating Taylor, and he's not beating any of the champs at 147, obviously. So his run as a world champion is kind of over.
It's sad. It's sad to see. Shout out to Sandro Martin, the one time in recent memory I can be proud to be Spanish. Thank you, Sandor. Thank you. I can appreciate it, buddy.
Jose Vargas fights tomorrow. Mikey ain't beating him.
No.
That's what I'm saying. Like he looked horrible. And again, it didn't look fluky. It didn't look like Mikey came in overweight and out of shape. It just looked like he got a box.
Though he does look overweight and out of shape at this weight class.
That's true. He's not fighting. I agree with that. But it's not like he didn't go to camp, right? Like he ate donuts and didn't do his road work. He just this is how he fights. He doesn't really have a physique. Even at 30 and 35 and 26, he didn't have a six-pack. He didn't get all cut up and shredded. He just doesn't have that kind of – it's not how God built him. You know, he didn't have that kind of physique. He doesn't look like Jamel Herring or Tim Bradley.
Yes. Gary, can you hear me still?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm going to try something right now. Let me know if you can hear me.
I cannot.
Okay. Because I think I figured out one of the knobs that is giving some echo here, but I don't know what to do about it. Because if I turn it off, I can hear you. You can't hear me, but the echo's gone.
So why don't you turn it off when I'm talking?
I mean, I'm just going to have to be on this knob a lot, Gary. So if you see me, like, waiting a second to talk, you know why, okay?
This could be dangerous, Matt, because I could just talk over you. I could just steamroll you.
You know I don't like that, Gary. Please. I don't think there are any topics coming up that are going to be debate-worthy, hopefully. What else was on this card? Elwin Soto losing to Jonathan Gonzalez. Good fight. Elwin Soto just having issues of activity. I think cardio as well. Brock Jarvis picking up a win. Nikita Bobby picking up a win. Diego Pacheco picking up a win. Mark Castro picking up a win. Just quick comment, because Mark Castro was the only one I care to comment on this card. That guy has a future. Like, when we were seeing, like, Shakur very early and going, like, that guy has a lot of talent. Like, yeah, he's beating nobody right now, but he's passing the eye test in every way. Mark Castro is like that for me. Maybe obviously in a very different style, but Mark Castro is one of those young talents I'm looking at right now and going, he's going to be the future one day. Gary, any thoughts on the undercard here?
Oh, Bam was on the card.
That's
We're not going to talk about...
Dude, and Gary, I'll be honest. I still missed that fight. I still haven't gone back and watched it. I apologize, Gary. For those who don't know, I forget what happened. I had to leave the house and something like that, like right as the co-main event was starting, and fucking missed that. And although it wasn't really the co-main event, right? I think Mark Castro was really the co-main. And so I missed the Bam Rodriguez fight, who I know Gary was hyping. I know everyone was hyping up. Obviously, he picked up a big win, I heard. Gary, thoughts?
Bam Rodriguez is like watching LeBron James at 21 years old. It's just a phenom. Like, I mean, this kid is so different. And so the footwork and the angles that he throws, it's like Lomachenko with Pacquiao's power. I mean, he at 108, right? I mean, it's going to be hard for him to sell at 108 in America. I mean, Michael Carbajal kind of did it, but he did it as a co-main on Don King cards, right? But there's no question about Bam's ability. Bam's ability is freakish. The only question is, can you make him a moneymaker? And I don't know the answer to that. Like, it hasn't really been done with American fighters, right? I know Chocolatito and things like that. But can you think of an American fighter who's at 115 and below, 118 and below, who's really headlined big money cards?
The answer is no.
Right?
And most likely the answer is going to be, at least in the foreseeable future, not likely. Like it's for one, like culturally speaking, when we talk about like sports in America, we're talking about like usually big men sports like basketball, football, hockey. These are sports generally that have very large people in them. While combat sports, you can get very low in weight class. And I think there's a reason why other countries fill out those divisions far more, because culturally, those countries produce sports and athletes that are smaller athletes. I think it's the common um, excuse, so to speak, for why like our heavyweight divisions always suck in combat sports. Because in America, all the big dudes aren't wanting to box because they can get paid a lot more, have a lot more job security, playing any other of the big four sports. So I think it's a little bit of that issue. Same way why like I'm assuming like in Japan or in Thailand you don't see a lot of heavyweight champions because like there's no need for that. There's no call for that. Here there's no real call for that in the lower weight classes. Gary, I don't know what your thoughts are about like the future of it, but I don't see it happening anytime soon of a U.S. born U.S. fighter or a U.S. based fighter becoming a moneymaker here. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think he could be a local attraction, especially in San Antonio, considered, it's a huge boxing city. There's so many good young fighters in San Antonio, like Hector Tanahara and Bam Rodriguez. Josh Franco. I know Josh Franco's with the Golden Boy, so they can't really fight on the same card, really. Unless, because Bam's not with the Zone or Matchroom. He's got a promotional deal with Matt's gonna have with the Japanese Tekken. Okay, they signed him when he was like 16. So I mean, I guess they let him fight, off label and fight in the U.S. and stuff. But his career isn't really gonna flourish here in America. He's gonna, and that's why you would sign with. How do you say Taken? Is that how you say it?
Taken.
That's why he signed with them, because he's gonna fight elsewhere. And again, Virgil Ortiz and Robert Garcia both said he's the best fighter in the camp. Think of that camp: Mikey, Virgil, Ramirez, right? They all say Bam's the best fighter in the camp. He's 21 years old.
Yeah, but Scott Brown mentioning now Inoue. I mean, even Inoue is never going to be a household name in the U.S. Like it's never going to happen, right? Like I'm not gonna say never. Like if Inoue like time traveled to like 2000, like 100, and maybe like we have like smaller men athletes, and that's what we focus on. Like maybe then, but like what is materially in front of us? Like there's no way Inoue is ever gonna be a household name. There's no way he's gonna on like an average night fighting some guy that's a nobody, like Jamar Herring, pull 1.3 million viewers. Like that's just like those NBA average numbers. Inoue is gonna really struggle getting those on a regular basis, main eventing in the U.S. Like it's just unfortunate. But like look at like 118, look at 122, look at who we could be facing. No one there is gonna be a foil that's gonna generate more views than the average Inoue fight. Like Inoue is just gonna be that star that he is at this moment in the U.S. And that's a limited star, a limited amount of stardom. In Japan, he's a fucking mega star. So I don't know why Top Rank has focused on like bringing him to the U.S. If I was Top Rank, I would focus on bringing Top Rank operations to Japan off of Inoue. That's what I would focus on. That I wouldn't think about bringing Inoue to the U.S. trying to make him a star here. That seems counterproductive, counterintuitive, and low efficiency. Like, go to Japan. Like, send operations that way. But that's not where they're thinking. It's unfortunate. Adam Beanie Smith in the chat saying, Matt, does old man Rob, the Brit, still appear? And he appears in the group chat to shit on me and Gary all the time. On this show, no, he's busy. He's busy. And just like I'm like really busy nowadays. Like we don't do the show as often. It's just the unfortunate nature of like, hey, it's a podcast. We don't make like real money off of this. So If other people have stuff they need to do and obligations, those things kind of come first. Jorge Masvidal in the chat over on Twitch saying Gary's looking like Jorge Masvidal in them braids. Yes. No, actually, he's looking like Nico Ali, the great Nico Ali. I mean, really the future of boxing, if we're going to be honest about it. But Gary, any other thoughts on this Mikey card before we move on?
Do y'all like the braids? Should I keep it? I'm thinking about on and off, right? Like I'll let them grow out for a little bit because I can only keep it for about a month. Then I'll cut my hair. I'll let it grow out a couple months again and then do it again. Like so, maybe get my hair braided like 3-4 times a year. What do y'all think? Is that something? Is it a good look? I'm really liking it. I just got something to put on it, so it's not so itchy. We're good. Like we're good. I'm liking it.
I just shaved my beard today. And that thing had been on for like months and months. It was a struggle there, Gary. I was like fucking like what's the term, like shearing like sheep? You know what I mean? Like that's what it felt like, man. It was like just.
What made you want to do that, Boomer?
Bored. I was bored. The one issue though, you can't really see it here because the lighting I have here. Thank God, it's kind of just widening out my whole face. But there's like tan lines. Like it's a massive ass tan line, like around where my beard was, and it's horrific. But thank God for the lighting here. Moving on from Matchroom and DAZN over in Fresno, California, which I have to also to say looked like a shit event. Like there was maybe like 3,000 or 4,000 people there. Mikey Garcia rolling up in a John Deere tractor where all the John Deere workers are on strike. Real fucking smart there, Mikey. Good thinking there, buddy. Moving on from that.
Were they on strike at that point?
Yeah.
That's a bad luck.
No, I think that they announced the strike like the day of or the day before, to be fair.
So you had it planned.
You probably had it planned. But still, come on, Mikey. Come on, buddy. But digressing, let's get to the Shakur Stevenson event that happened this last weekend. I mean, there's no other way to describe this than like utter domination, like pure clinic. Shakur battered Jamel Herring in every way he wanted to. He was the faster fighter, the stronger fighter, the heavier hitter, the more accurate boxer, the more talented boxer, the more skilled boxer. Like, Shakur was just better in everything, and it showed. I mean, you know this, Gary. I don't believe the Joet Gonzalez win means anything. We're talking about Joet Gonzalez soon as well, because he obviously lost against Mano Navarte, 2 weeks ago. But this was like the real test in my mind for Shakur Stevenson. This was a real quality fighter in front of him, a real tested fighter as well. You know, Joet Gonzalez was also an untested prospect in my mind, fighting another untested prospect in Shakur Stevenson for a vacant belt, which I thought was bullshit. This wasn't that, and he passed with beyond flying colors. I honestly think it's going to be a race between him, T.O., Tank, as like who's the best guy from like 130 to 140, 147 for the next 5-10 years. Like it's going to be those three guys. Frank saying that stoppage was weird. Yeah, the stoppage was kind of not odd. It just felt like it could have came either rounds before or when like something actually dramatic happened. But digressing. Gary, your thoughts on Shakur Stevenson looking fantastic?
First I'll say I like the stoppage. Like it's kind of like when Paulie fought Amir Khan and Steve Smolger was the ref. And it was like, I mean, he had got a shot that kind of buckled him. And Smolger's like, you know what? That's enough. I actually saw Smolger in the airport. He was reffing a fight in Dallas. And I saw him in the airport. And I asked him about this. Like, Gary, I should have stopped it earlier. I was like, I mean, but he's right. Like, I got it, right? Like, okay, I didn't stop it in round 9. You survived round 10. He buckles you in round 11. I should have stopped it in round 9. I'm going to stop it now. And I kind of feel like that's what Herring, like they did. Like Herring was surviving. He was fighting. You know, he was fighting to win still. He was trying to win the fight. He was out of his league, right? And so I was fine with the stoppage. Yes, I do, Yogi the Bear. I thought Shakur Stevenson's performance was incredible. It's A+. Like for me, even given what Usyk did, it's the performance of the year, the best performance of the year. It was that good. I thought Herring would have moments. Herring started going backwards. That fell. Then he tried to come forward. He was going in the right direction. Didn't matter, though. Shakur Stevenson was just so much better. And I thought you would see that. I just thought it would be a lot more competitive. Like, Herring would win rounds. But then at the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson was younger and sharper, and his skills would carry him in a very competitive fight. It wasn't competitive. Herring did okay in one round. And I'm not disparaging Herring. He's one of the best guys, 3 or 4 guys in that weight class. The best 2, lucky for us, Shakur Stevenson, Chris Colbert are both really young and really good. Bad for us is they'll never fight each other in the foreseeable future because, well, we all know why they won't fight each other.
At least Colbert most likely is going to fight Roger Gutierrez, which I know you're a big fan of. So that's nice. Hopefully we get a unification of the WBA belts, which are so meaningful, of course, right?
Kind of hard beat Gutierrez.
I don't think though it's a 2-horse race between Stevenson and Chris Colbert. I just don't believe that. I think Chris Colbert hasn't established himself in the same way that Shakur has.
He doesn't have that signature win. He's got more good wins than Stevenson has.
Not only that, like Shakur was devastating in that win. Like I feel like it's undercut how much damage he put on Jamel Herring. Because that's not really something we thought Shakur could do, or obviously was going to do. I mean, let's be honest, Gary. Like when we were analyzing this fight, at no point did we think he was going to beat down Jamel Herring every round. Like it was such a beat down that Triple G was blushing somewhere. Right? Like those body shots were so nice that Chavez Sr. was somewhere going like, "Ooh, that's nice." Like that's how much of a beat down it was. Like that to me throws Shakur in another stratosphere at this division. Because if Tank was really in this division, it's Tank and Shakur. But Tank's not really in this division. So if I exclude him from the mix and I look at who's left, the only other person is really Valdez that is established in the same way that Shakur is. But I think Shakur demolishes Valdez. Bad. I think he goes in, if he ever fights Chris Colbert, he's going to demolish Chris Colbert too. Because the damage that Shakur can put on is something that we did not anticipate or think was possible. The guy has pop. When I think you even mentioned this before, that you thought maybe Shakur has enough power, kind of like Mayweather, where it's like, it's not enough to like hurt you in a sense, like knock you out, one-punch knockout power, like Adonis Stevenson, something like that. But it's damaging power. It's power that is respectful in every way. I think Shakur has that in spades. Like I think Shakur's power is probably one thing that we did not anticipate was going to be so central to his game plan. That he could overpower Jamel Herring and beat him up with body shots and beat him up and bust up his face. That was a mean Shakur Stevenson. There's no one at 130 that beats him right now. No.
Chris Colbert.
No, it's not happening, Gary.
The fight's not happening.
But Gary, even if the fight did happen right now, you're not picking Chris Colbert. Off of that performance,
I probably
am. My, well, how? Why? What is he gonna do? Is he faster than Shakur? Is he better than Shakur?
I think he's more complete offensively. Oh, you're right. That performance was great. Chris Colbert can fight every possible way. He can fight on the inside. He can fight on the outside. He can walk you down. He can back's going back. There's nothing Chris Colbert can't do. And he's got decent power, like enough power that we're talking about. Chris Colbert is so incredibly good. But so is Stevenson. That's why that fight, if I can make any fight in boxing, that's in the top 5. Colbert versus Stevenson is that good of a fight. I'm not saying Colbert will definitely win. He could win. You said who could beat him? Chris Colbert could beat him.
No. If that fight was made right now, who are you picking?
I'm kind of leaning towards Colbert. I think Colbert's that good. Like, he doesn't have the signature win. I get it. He doesn't have the win. He doesn't have Jamel Herring. He's got King Tug. He's got Mercado. He's got Desiree Corrales. He's got more good wins than Stevenson has. But yeah, he doesn't have that great performance, right? Best win by far, by a mile, goes to Shakur Stevenson.
But one thing that Chris Colbert's never done is beat down a top level fighter. He's beat top fighters like King Tug, Jezreel Corrales. Those are really good wins. And you're right that he has a lot more better wins than Shakur. I mean, his resume is better than Shakur Stevenson. I mean, that's just the God honest truth. But I've never like walked away from watching a Chris Colbert fight going, that dude's dangerous. Like, that dude can hurt people. I walked away from that Saturday night watching Shakur Stevenson going, he can hurt people. Like, he's going to hurt Oscar Valdez, Gary. Like, it's not going to be pretty. Oscar Valdez is going to get beat the fuck up and get retired that night.
So here's what I want to say, right? Like, when Larry Holm, the greatest heavyweight champion of all time, was becoming an all-time great, we're like, okay, he doesn't have the speed and the reflexes and the skills of Ali. He doesn't knock people out like Foreman and Frazier did. He's not that good. But you just couldn't beat him, right? And I kind of like, what are you going to do to beat Chris Colbert? Like, Holmes, you couldn't get past his jab, right? I mean, he can beat you with just his one arm, right? I feel like, look, Shakur Stevenson is extremely gifted. If there's anyone who can beat Colbert, it's only Stevenson. That being said, like, Colbert is equally as good. It's probably taller too. He's longer. Like, he'd have a reach advantage, I think. Although Stevenson is kind of like oddly built. Like his limbs are long. So I don't know. I don't know that he's longer. Have to look that up. Like, Stevenson can match. I mean, Colbert can match him for everything.
Not for power, not for speed.
I think he can match him for power and speed.
No, he can't. Impossible, Gary. Impossible. Scott Brown is saying War Valdez, and I'm assuming he's referring to me saying that Shakur is going to retire Oscar Valdez, saying that's what you said about Burchelt. That is true, that Oscar Valdez had a virtuoso performance against Miguel Burchelt. And then what happened in his last fight like a month ago? Scott Brown, I felt like he won a decision that was universally claimed a robbery. Am I wrong in that, Gary?
I thought he won. The scorecards were egregious, right? Like, it was a 1-point fight. I thought either way. I thought the right guy won, although it was, a kind of fight. You go to the scorecards, you don't know who won. The scorecards, and even the judge, the one judge said he got it wrong, which is, I guess, good that you can admit your fault, but also so that you're incompetent in what are you doing. So I don't know what to make of that. Like, it's like an unspoken rule. Like, when you make a call in other sports, you stick by it, right? It's good that you can admit that you're wrong, but you also admit that you're like incompetent or wasn't paying attention or something not good.
The worst performance of the year was Oscar Valdez's performance. Which is funny, right? Because is the Burchelt fight this year as well?
That was December of last year, wasn't it?
Oh, fuck. Because you can make an argument that Valdez had the best and worst performance within a calendar month or fiscal month or fiscal year, I should say. Sorry, fiscal year. Like that is 100% true. Because Valdez had a performance of a lifetime against Burchelt, and then had the worst performance of anyone I've seen in some time. Moving on from Shakur Stevenson and Jamel Herring. Where are we at here? Let me find it. Oh, shit. I just closed it out. What was on the undercard, Gary? I'm trying to remember. I just closed it out.
Shakur Stevenson, mm-hmm. Nico Ali Walsh, and Evan Holyfield. It was not a good undercard.
Evan, good offense. Not sold yet on him being anything. Nico Ali, I am sick and tired of already. God, get him the fuck away from my television screen. Please.
Actually, Matt, Burchelt fight was in February of this year, so that was this year. So he's got the best and worst performance, arguably, in the conversation of best and worst performance of the year.
Dude, when I do our end of the year show and talking about the best of and worst of and shit like that, he's getting best and worst in the same year. That's incredible, Valdez. What an achievement. Salute to you. Yeah, Nico Ali, I'm sick of. And he's all right for a club level prospect, in my opinion. You know what I mean, Gary? There's tons of guys that you probably have seen there 1 or 2-0 that look like Nico Ali. They go, he's good. He'll get to 4 or 5, maybe 6-0. He'll take an L. That's what's gonna happen.
I mean, if you want to get him to 15-0, this is what you're going to have to feed him. I mean, eventually he's going to have to take a step up. And he's not even close to taking a step up yet, right? It's like Campbell. He's not as bad as Campbell Hatton. No one's as bad as Campbell Hatton. But, like, you can see, like, he doesn't have it yet, right? And, like, he's not like he's 18. Like, he's, like, 24, 25. Like, it's a little late in the game to make Nico Ali Walsh an elite-level world-class fighter. Like, it's probably not going to happen. Evan Holyfield, again, I'm not saying Evan Holyfield's going to be the goods. You can see there's talent in there. Like, you can see he's a good fighter. How high does he go? I mean, only time will tell. What he fought on that top-ranked card, what he fought on the Canelo undercard, what he fought on the Canelo undercard is not indicative. It doesn't tell us what he's capable of, right? We don't know yet.
NJMP is saying, they said they need a DNA test to prove he is his grandson. Look, Nico Ali, I just think is a very plain and obvious, like, industry plant and, like, gimmick. You know what I mean? And, like, I don't fault him for following through with being an industry plant and gimmick by Top Rank. I get it. Like, go collect a check, go collect a bag. People gotta make a living. I respect that. I don't respect Top Rank doing it because it's very clear what Top Rank is doing. Cashing in on some nostalgia that I think has been spent way too much time on. Like, we have so much Ali content out there in the boxing media sphere and just overall our industry. Like, the idea of, like, pushing his grandson, it just makes no sense to me. It doesn't. I fail to see why we should care about Nico Ali just because he's Ali's grandson. I'm good on it. Gary, any other thoughts on the Shakur Stevenson event?
No, I mean, it was main event was great, and the rest of the card,
Very, very trash. Very trash.
Speaking of trash undercard, see the Canelo undercard?
No, I didn't. But I'm not surprised it's not good. I'm not, especially with how much money is, like, kind of being said to be on this main event. I'm not surprised the undercard's trash. And honestly, one, I don't pay for pay-per-views anymore, so I don't care about that. But, like, getting my money's worth, fuck, don't pay for it. There's plenty of ways to watch without paying for it, allegedly. Two, I only care about the main event when it comes to that event, too. Like, I don't need anything else. Like, Caleb Plant is enough for me to be satisfied. Like, I'll be good on my boxing fill and like appetite just off that event, in that fight, I should say. That's all I need for that weekend. Gary, I don't know about you, but I mean, that is a matchup I've been wanting as like a fantasy matchup in my head for some time. It's finally happening. It's happening where both guys are still in their prime. Like, I'm content. Like, you can put anything on the undercard because I'm not going to pay for it. But that main event's fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm picking Caleb Plant to win. So, what if I'm right? I'm going to be a genius if I'm right.
No, because you've hedged that bet with, I know he's actually not going to win. I'm just doing it because, no. Ha, ha, ha.
It'll be different. Like, everyone's going to pick it out. I'll take Caleb Plant. Caleb Plant's really good. I'll take Plant.
Yeah, Caleb Plant's really good. Canelo is the fucking GOAT, okay?
Everyone takes a loss sometimes, right? Like,
and he has.
Floyd Mayweather when he was 22. Yeah, he has.
And he learned his lesson and will never lose again. Science.
I mean, you can't say he'll never lose again. Sure, he could lose again.
Never.
He's never going to lose again.
Gary, think about this. There's no one at 160 to 175 that's like a betting favorite against Canelo.
No, he's never going to be an underdog. Any fight in the next 5 years, he will not be an underdog. That doesn't mean he can't get upset, right? Like Rocky Balboa beat Creed. Was Balboa. Like, upsets happen. Like, give me a pound for pound fighter that got picked up. I mean, it happens.
I mean, think about this, Gary. Think about like the natural foils that like Mayweather had when he was like 32, 33, right? Like all those like fighters out there that people wanted him to fight. from Shane Mosley to Margarito to Pacquiao to Cotto. Like, there was a lot of guys that, like, people said, like, ooh, they're Hall of Famers too. They're great fighters too. Like, they can beat Mayweather. They have a style to beat Mayweather, blah, blah. There's none of that happening with Canelo. None of that. There's no one out there going, ooh, this guy and this guy and this guy are so good. They're so talented. Like, they're Hall of Famers in their own right, and they can beat Canelo. That's not happening. Like, that parity we had at 140 to 154, let's say, right, in the Mayweather-Pacquiao era, that's non-existent with the Canelo era. And that's a little bit unfortunate, too, because I think that does hurt Canelo's profitability as a marquee fighter, and it does hurt his legacy in a sense, because his big foil Triple G is, like, gone now. Like, I don't think anyone is interested really in a trilogy fight anymore, me included. And I used to be clamoring for that trilogy fight. I don't care for it anymore. It's been too much time. So yeah, I don't know what you think about that. Like, the idea that Canelo doesn't have those real threats in a way that Mayweather did, or Pacquiao did, or other people did.
It's unfortunate. Like, Benavidez, people like, but I don't really think people think Benavidez could beat him. Charlo was that guy, but he's been unimpressive. You know, not that he's been unimpressive, he just hasn't impressed you anywhere near the way Canelo has, right? Like, Charlo's taking care of business and Canelo's taking over the business, kind of thing, right? Like, you know, that was a fight with 3 years ago. I think Charlo wins that fight. I don't think that anymore. He's got those names, and he can go through those names. Again, you're going to pick Canelo against every one of them, unless you want to be different and just pick an upset.
But there was a time, like, let's say, like, Mayweather versus Margarito. Like, there was a disparity of, like, who picked who to win, and it wasn't just you being, like, not with the norm. Like, no, there was a real debate about who would win that fight. Same with Pacquiao, like, and Mayweather. Same with Pacquiao Marquez. Like, Canelo doesn't have that. Like, the closest is probably, like, Better Beef. But even that, I think Canelo has gotten to a point where people just, like, we see it time and time again. Canelo go in there and just outclass people and beat them up. So, like, who else does he need to do that to at that level? Because all these other people are at the same level. Charlo, Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Sergey Kovalev, like, they're all the same level in terms of threat, you know, danger, the prospect of danger for Canelo. It's the same.
The difference between this era and the Mayweather-Pacquiao era was 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. You had so many great 147 pounders, right? And they were stylistically, you would think, trouble for Floyd, who didn't throw a lot of punches. So you got Margarito and Paul Williams, who are 5 inches taller than him, can knock him out if they can hit him, and throw 100 punches around. Like, if Mayweather would have fought Margarito in 2007, hypothetically, Mayweather would have been the favorite, but the boxing world, the boxing community would have been split down the middle on who was going to win the fight. Same thing with Paul Williams. There's nothing like that for Canelo. Right? Like, if I want to take Plant, like, you're going to be an outsider and you're going to be wrong. Like, Plant's not going to really beat him. But, like, people really thought Margarito and Paul Williams were just too big and too long and too strong and threw too many punches for Floyd Mayweather. Like, they could actually cut the ring off on him and do what De La Hoya tried to do, but do it with power and do it in their 20s, not when they were 35 like Oscar, and beat him. Right? Because if I would have said to you in 2007, who really wins, to put you on truth serum, Paul Williams or Oscar? You're going to pick Paul Williams.
Yeah. And Scott Brown making a point that Floyd was an underdog since Corrales. I don't think he was even an underdog against Corrales because I have his betting odds up here.
Was he a favorite with Corrales?
I can't find Corrales specifically, unfortunately. I apologize. But I find a lot of them, and he was not an underdog in pretty much any of his major fights. But that's not really the point. That was kind of just a throwaway comment. My point is that there was debate in the boxing community about who can win these fights. There was not that debate here. Like, yeah, you have, like, some weird Charlo fans or, like, some weird, like, Billy Joe fans back, you know.
But they don't really think he's going to win.
And it wasn't the same way. Like I remember like watching ESPN back in the day when like he fought Oscar, and like that was some of his closest odds in his career. It was like minus 190. Mayweather was. Like there was tons of talking heads talking about Oscar being too big, too seasoned, blah blah. Like even old man Oscar was like, "Oh man, he could beat Mayweather. He can do it." And there was a debate about it. So I just think it's significantly different when we talk about Canelo because there's not that parity. There's not those names that are equally Hall of Fame talents that present that danger to Mayweather or Pacquiao like the way, to Canelo like they did with Mayweather or Pacquiao. It just doesn't happen. Like Pacquiao took L's against a future Hall of Famer in Marquez and Mayweather. I mean,
and Bradley.
And Bradley too. Even though that one's a little bit questionable. I mean, where's those guys for Canelo? Like, where's the Tim Bradley for Canelo? Like, where's the Marquez for Canelo? Like, where's that foe for him? I don't see it.
We gotta move David Morrell quickly.
That's not happening. I'm sorry.
Because if I'm looking at that division, you got Benavidez, right? And I said, who's really like the next guy that can really run that division? It's Morrell. But like he's only got 5 fights, so you can't put him with Canelo now. You can't do that. Right? But he's fought once this year. Like I would want Morrell to be the prospect of the year this year. He's that good. But you can't be a prospect of the year if you fought one time this year. Like he should be fighting 4 times a year.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Moving on, trying to get through the fights this last couple weeks. Amanda Navarte defeated Joette Gonzalez. And a real good fight. I'll say that. It was competitive in a lot of spots, but he really beat up Joette Gonzalez towards the end of that fight. Giovanni Santillan picked up a win as well. Landolfo Delgado picked up a win. Henry LeBron picked up a win. Floyd Diaz picked up a win, and that's about it for people on that card that I know. Gary, thoughts about your boy, Joette Gonzalez, losing and like having a busted fucking like his eye was bad. That was
good fight, fun fight, right? Gonzalez was in it. I mean, I thought he lost. I mean, I think we can agree he lost, but it was a good fight. I'm still convinced Joette Gonzalez, if he hangs around 126, he will get a world title at some point. This was damaging because you're not going to get a better chance than this, but hopefully he gets better, continues to improve, and becomes a better fighter.
Gary, I don't know what's weirder. You still thinking that Joette Gonzalez can win a championship at 126? Or you thinking Tanahara can win a championship at 135? I don't know what's weirder.
Just the shape of 35 right now with all the talent in 35, like that would be the stranger one because you got T.O. and Tank and that would be tough. And you still have Loma, like like he's not there anymore. He's still there.
And he beats
I don't think it's that outrageous that Gonzalez eventually wins the world title. It's not like he was light years off. He lost by a couple rounds.
The only way he wins is like a Roger Gutierrez way, where like it's the WBA fucking up and making like too many belts, and like he slips in as like a lineal WBA champion or some shit, but like it's not completely respected because there's multiple WBA champions and multiple other champions. So, I mean that's the only way it would happen. Like there's no way he comes in and beats Gary Russell or Mauricio Lara. Like that's never happening.
No.
I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, he seems like a nice guy, but I mean, he's just not that caliber. And it's okay not to be that caliber. You know, like not everyone's going to be the best guy in the division.
Shakur likes his sister. Is that still a thing?
No, they're not together. Okay. No, Shakur has a new baby mama.
Oh, does he?
Yes, it's it's some rapper.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you more than that. I just have seen the like the announcement photos, like when you're pregnant. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I saw some of those online. You know, it is what it is. Moving on.
Who's dating Brandon Figueroa's sister?
I don't know, but someone lucky probably. You know, Someone real lucky. Just going to quickly mention these fights. Maris Briedis was back in action 2 weeks ago as well against Artur Mann. Picked up a win. I did not see this event, I will be honest. Savannah Marshall picked up a win as well 2 weeks ago against Loleta Muzia. Do you remember how to pronounce her last name?
That sounds about right.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Savannah Marshall was getting her ass kicked until that stoppage, and she benefited from being the hometown or home country fighter, so to speak. I didn't like that at all. I thought the whole sequence was very odd. I will say that. Henry Fury picked up a win against Christian Hammer. Could give two shits about that. Chris Eubank Jr. picked up a win against some guy. I can safely say now, Gary, I do not care about watching Chris Eubank Jr. anymore. He has entered like an Andrade level of like, what are you fucking doing? And for Chris Eubank Jr. it makes less sense because Chris Eubank Jr. has like an entire network pushing him and has had like multiple networks pushing him, has been like a like baby face for promotions. I don't know why he's continuing to fight awful opponents other than the fact that he's just not that good and they're hiding that reality. Quite odd.
It's that one. He's not that good. He's not look.
He's decent.
He's not a bad fighter. He's not one of the 10 best guys at either 60 or 68. Sorry. Like Dennis Hogan, good fight. He could probably win that fight. Like, but if you want to say like he's gonna beat the best guys at 60, he's not beating Kieran Davis, right? He's not beating like those guys. But he's not a bad fighter. Like he doesn't suck. He's not Campbell Hatton, right? Like he's good. I mean, I use Campbell Hatton because he's son of a great fighter, right? Like he's actually a good fighter. Like Chavez Jr. was actually a good fighter for a season, and then he became whatever. But like Eubank's not a world beater, but he's also not a bad fighter.
Yeah, I feel like if they just didn't care about his name so much, like he would just be in fun fights and be a fun fighter, and that would be good enough. You know what I mean? Like you can be a top 15 guy and just be a fun fighter. Like be the Derek Chisora of whatever division you're in. Like be that. You can make money doing that, Gary. Like I don't understand why he doesn't do that.
Chris Eubank was a little bit before your time. He was really good. Like Chris Eubank Sr. was really good.
Yeah, a little bit before my time. That is true, and he was good from everything I've seen. He was very, very talented, unlike his son. Clarissa Shields lost in MMA yesterday. Obviously, she's fighting on the same card as Savannah Marshall in December, and then they're supposedly fighting first half of next year. Gary, thoughts on Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields? Other than the fact that I know we've discussed this, that Clarissa Shields dominates Savannah Marshall and it's not competitive.
I root for Clarissa Shields. Low key, I'm glad she lost in the UFC fight because now maybe she should go back to boxing full time. And I get it.
MMA, Gary. It wasn't a UFC card.
I'm sorry, MMA. Sorry,
it was MMA. A PFL event.
Right, because UFC doesn't have her weight class. Is that right? I'm low key. I was upset that she lost because I like her, so I don't want to see her lose. But also, okay, well, let's put that to the side now. Let's go back to boxing. Again, her fighting on the same card as Savannah Marshall and not fighting Savannah Marshall is weird to me because, like, why isn't she fighting Savannah Marshall? It's good to see her back in the ring, so I'll just take that and be happy with that in the boxing ring.
I'm assuming that is due to weight. So, like, think about like what weight class they're going to meet at because Marshall competes at 168, doesn't she? Or did she?
60.
No, she went down to 160. Okay, so she's at 160, but Shields isn't at 160. So maybe the idea is like to give Marshall more time to calibrate to a different weight class, to 154 maybe, 155 catch weight. I don't know what's happening there. I'm assuming that's at play, if I had to guess.
Clarissa Shields could go into the ring at 150, and if they would approve the fight, the commission would approve the fight, she'd beat her 10-0. You know that. Like, I'm not disrespecting Savannah Marshall, but she can't win a round. I don't care what Shields weighs.
But Gary,
Savannah Marshall winning a round against her.
Shields, as the name, is definitely in the A side, is gonna be dictating the weight. I'm guessing, right? True. Like Marshall is clearly the one that's chasing Shields, therefore Shields probably can dictate the terms. Like that's just how it works. Nothing else on the card that I care to talk about. Oscar Rivas picked up a win, guys. Is he like the first Bridgerweight champion now? I didn't see the event, so
I meant to watch it too. I just forgot about it. It was on ESPN Plus, I think.
Yeah, I think it's still there, obviously, but I've not
forgot about it.
I mean, I like Oscar Rivas too. I always think I've always thought he's talented. The new weight class thing, I just don't care about at all. Like we need to probably take away weight classes instead of adding to the mix, if we're being quite honest. Right, Gary?
Yes, but like we've already hit the point of no return. There's 17 weight classes. Let's make some more.
Let's make it like golf. 18 holes, 18 weight classes.
I mean, it's what it is, right? I mean, so I was reading an article, Boxing article about Ugas. You know the WBA has 17 weight classes, 55 recognized world champions.
Yeah. That's when I say, like, can, like, Yoel Gonzalez pick up a belt? Yeah, for the WBA. There's 50 of them. Almost 60. I wonder if you count, like, all the bullshit different belts, the WBC, what that would add up to as well. Because it's obviously way easier to count up with the WBA because it's regimented. It's 3 belts per division. Like, it's very easy to figure out that math. Even though they've only taken away, like, a few of, like, the interim stuff and interim belts in certain divisions, like, you can tabulate that up real fast. The WBC has given out a plethora of belts in every weight class with every different type of name. Diamond champions, franchise champions. You have all the different, like, seasonal belts, I'm going to call it. Because in the same way, when, like, it's autumn, like, everything is pumpkin flavored at Starbucks, certain times of the year, everything is Mexican flavored or women flavored or, like, something. It's very weird what the WBC does with their belts, the way they've commodified culture. Very odd. I don't know which one would have more belts. It would be probably close if I had to guess, right, Gary?
Yes, but the difference is the WBC doesn't it does with the franchise, but they don't recognize the Diamond Champion as a world champion.
The franchise is a designation, Gary. It's totally different, okay? Because when you beat the franchise champion, that doesn't make you a champion.
I just feel like when they asked him about that, so if you beat that guy in a unification fight, do you get to be the WBC champion? And Sullivan goes, yes. But no, it's very complicated. I wish I could explain it to you. You're just not smart enough to understand. Right?
I love on yes or no questions when people answer yes, but no. Really just pure confusion there. Frank in the chat over on Twitch saying that Jake Paul is a WBC champion too. I mean, I know he was given a belt, wasn't he?
He's not a world champion.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, dude. It's the same thing that Mario Barros can do and, like, pull up and say he's a world champion when he's not a world champion or wasn't a world champion. I know you're going to say, well, the WBA recognizes that as a legitimate championship. Yeah, but then if you give everyone a fucking belt, they're going to think they're world champion too.
You know, the WBA started the super champion when, like, Mosley had to give up his belt to fight Mayweather. So they still wanted to recognize him as a champion because he never lost his belt, right? He couldn't. Mayweather was inactive and not ranked by the WBA, so he couldn't fight him in a title fight. So if he wanted to fight Mayweather, he had to give the belt up. So that's why they had a super belt. And then they just made regular champs in every weight class.
The fight bar is like they don't even call them regular champions anymore. Like they're just world champions. And then you have super world champions. I love that. That's always great. They dropped the regular tag as like a way to hide and mystify the process. It's hilarious.
So when Colbert fights Gutierrez, for the WBA super featherweight champion. Will the winner be the WBA super duper super featherweight champion of the world?
Yes, but no.
No.
Yes, but no. Moving on. Fights this coming weekend on Showtime. Jamal James versus Butiev. Jared Enos versus Thomas Delorme. Michelle Rivera back in action versus Jose Matias Romero. And some other people I don't know about. Gary, I'm liking this little triple header here, man. I mean, it's not like the best triple header ever, but it's a solid one. It's a solid one. Jonas in the chat saying that Che Guevara painting is really cool. Greetings from Argentina. Greetings, Jonas. Hope you're doing well, man. And I honestly cannot pick. It's the top two, right? Jamal James versus Butiev or Jared Enos versus Thomas Delorme. I don't know which one I like more. Probably the Jamal James-Butiev fight because I might pick Butiev to win that one. But I like this triple header, Gary. I'm glad to see it.
If you're picking Butiev, and I may pick him, you're picking him because you don't think Jamal James is that good.
No, that's not necessarily the case. I think they're at similar level. Like, out of 10 times, who wins the most? I think it's probably 5 out of 5. Like one wins 5, one wins 5. Like, both guys are long fighters, big fighters. I think Butiev probably hits a little bit harder. Jamal James is probably the better boxer of the two. But I think they're, top 15-ish guys. So, like, either one can win the fight, in my opinion, Gary. Like, there's no big, skills gap between Jamal James and Butiev, is there?
No. But that's what I'm saying. You don't think Jamal James is that good, right? Because when Vesputin fought, when Butiev fought Vesputin, he got dominated.
That's not true.
Now, I know he popped dirty, right? So it doesn't count. But he got beat down.
That's not true, Gary.
You don't think so?
No. I think he struggled with the lateral movement of Vesputin, of course. But that was a competitive fight. Like, I remember at the end of that, there were some people that thought Butiev won the fight.
If you think Butiev won that fight, you probably also think Danny Garcia beat Keith Thurman. I don't know what you do with your scorecard.
But Gary, there are people that think that.
I know there are. I don't understand those people at all.
Gary, I was at the Barclays Center. I remember walking out of that fucking arena and people going, dude, Danny won that shit. I'm going like, what? Oh my God, where am I at? But then again, Gary, I've also been that person. Walking out of Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev won. I thought Andre Ward won that shit.
I had it exactly the same as the judges. 114, 113, Andre Ward.
But I was the oddball, I'm telling you, in that arena when we were all walking out and people were upset. So I don't know. I think it was a close fight that Butiev clearly showed limits to his game. But is Jamal James that, like, light of foot fighter that's going to be on his bike moving? I don't really see that in Jamal James. Kind of a plotter, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah. I thought Delorme was a very competitive fighter. People thought he looked great in that fight. It's a good win. Delorme's a good win. But Montana Love beat him better the next time out. Right? Like, I thought that was a competitive fight. Like, Jamal James is good. And if Jamal James wins this fight, he deserves a legitimate world title shot, right? Because he's beaten Abel Ramos. Like, he's gone through these names. But he's going to lose his title shot, right? Like, he's not going to win it. He's not going to beat Ugas, or he already lost to Ugas, or Spence, or whoever would have a belt at 140, or Terrence Crawford. Or he's not going to beat Boots Enos, right? He's not going to beat those guys. You're muted.
I'm muted for you, Gary. Everyone else, I'm solid. Don't worry about it. Michelle Rivera should pick up a big win as well. I just want him to get fast-tracked. The reality is, though, he's going to be limited due to the politics of that division. Moving on from that card, you have another card on Saturday in the UK. Chantel Cameron versus Mary McGee. Craig Richards versus Merrick.
Again, some Polish guy no one's ever heard of.
Some dude. Alan Bebic is on the card, who I know, like, for some reason, UK people are like love. And that's about.
Oh, his brother fought in the AIBA World Championship today.
Oh,
Heavyweight. He won.
okay. Good for him, I guess.
And my boy, Jorge Castaneda, fights in that card. There you go, Ryan. There you go, Ryan.
Shout out Tanahara. Yes, always. I will say this, though, Gary. I don't think Canelo is going to be shouting out Ryan Garcia anytime soon. I mean, I'll be honest here. I was shocked reading this article that Canelo Alvarez said that Ryan Garcia is wasting time, talent. He's not 100% dedicated. There's, a longer quote in the article. Go read it. But that's the gist of it, is Canelo shitting on Ryan Garcia, saying that he's not in the gym at all, basically. What's your thoughts on this, Gary? Obviously you just think that Canelo's what Canelo's saying is true, of course, and that Ryan Garcia is just not dedicated. That's why he hasn't been back since he beat Luke Campbell. His head hasn't been in the game. I don't know really what to make of this, Gary, because we do have a guy that has said he's been open, like, I've had mental issues. I'm not mentally into the sport right now. So the idea of him not, like, checking out this year, that lines up. Ryan Garcia admitted it, that he's checked out this year, that he's mentally not there. So, Canelo repeating it to the media, I feel like is a little bit in poor taste in some fashion, especially as a teammate and semi-mentor towards Ryan Garcia, because Ryan has admitted this, that he is not 100% dedicated right now. He's just saying it in a very different way than Canelo is, right? Canelo is saying it in a very disparaging way, saying he's not dedicated, he's on the gym like he needs to be. Ryan's saying, I'm not dedicated because I'm not mentally there right now. Thoughts on that, Gary? Thoughts on maybe those two concepts and their contradictions and how to synthesize that?
Yeah. When Kobe and Shaq played together, Shaq looked at Kobe and was like, why don't you lighten up and have some fun? Like, you get to play basketball for millions of dollars. Have some fun with your life, okay? Don't take everything so seriously. And Kobe was like, why don't you take this game more seriously? Like, we're playing for championships here. Like, this is our passion. Like, it might be one of those things, right? Where Canelo is so hyper-focused on getting better, and Ryan Garcia is like, I just want to live the good life. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But it's weird. Canelo, he's the elder statesman now. He's the one that puts the younger kids in their place. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know where Ryan Garcia is mentally, if he's ready to go back. Ryan Garcia has made some good money. Especially with the Luke Campbell fight. If he wants to take some time off, that's his own prerogative. And if he's not mentally prepared to fight, if he's not mentally ready, he's going through things, then why fight, right? We work so we don't have to work anymore, right? Working shouldn't be, it's the means, it shouldn't be the ends, right? I kind of get what they're both saying. Canelo's like, you're wasting your talent. Okay. Okay. And Ryan Garcia's like, well, I got to take care of me first. I understand both perspectives. If this was a team sport, like if this was the Lakers or the Cowboys, you could see it a little more where the quarterback or the captain, the team calls out the young prospect. Like when Kobe basically called D'Angelo Russell a loser his rookie year, like you're acting like a loser. It affects all of us. This is a little different because it's not team sport. I don't know what to make. I think Canelo's just I think Canelo's a straight shooter, right? Like you see this, like you ask him a question, you get an answer. I think that's how he feels, so that's what he said. And I'm not blaming it on Ryan Garcia. Like, if Ryan Garcia is financially taken care of and you don't feel like working, don't work, right? Or just do whatever you need to do.
Or if, the simple fact of, if you're not mentally there, maybe don't be in the ring where you're going to get punched and you have to kind of be mentally dialed in, And yeah, Ryan Garcia is wasting time right now, but I think Canelo's also being a little bit unempathetical in a sense, because in the longer quote he mentions how when he started he fought 15 times in 1 year, and it's yeah, Canelo, that's because he had no amateur career, and he started as a pro at 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, you're probably making $200 a fight.
Ryan Garcia has 100+ fights in his amateur career. Like, that's a toll on him that I don't think people really take into account because we didn't see it, right? We weren't around for it. And I think people need to start taking that into account, generally speaking, in boxing, too, is when we talk about these young fighters that have 100, 200 amateur fights, and now they're pro at 18, 20 years old, they're not young. Like, they've been through wars already. They've been through too many training camps probably already. 100, 200 fights? That's a lot of fucking fights. I just thought, again, poor taste. If I was Canelo, I would have kept this private, this criticism private. Not keep it private to myself. I would just say it to Ryan Garcia personally.
Yeah, I agree with that. Keep it in-house.
I would have done that 100%. I don't understand taking this to the media, especially a big outlet like Complex. That's where the quote comes from, is Complex News. And that's a big conglomerate.
I think he just answered the question. He didn't hold a press conference to blast Ryan Garcia.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you're Canelo Alvarez. Like, the guy's clearly been PR trained at this point.
What you say today is news tomorrow.
Exactly.
For sure.
And I felt like he could have been a little more attacked there when there's times he doesn't have to be. Like, when he's talking about Oscar, if you want to go off, Canelo, you go off. Like, there's no reason to bite your tongue there. When it's with a guy that you're mentoring up, a kid that you're mentoring up, that's in your gym, and that you see is struggling, keep that criticism, that critical support for Ryan Garcia in-house. That's what I would do. That's just the way I think. I hope everything's fine with Ryan Garcia, though. I mean, I know, like, allegedly he broke his hand, something like that, right? Like, he's been going through mental stuff. Like, I hope he's doing all right. Like, whatever the fuck is happening, like, I hope he gets his shit figured out. And if he doesn't want to fight again, like Gary says, if he made enough money, because he's made 7 figures in the sport already, fuck, if you want to leave, leave. There's plenty of places in the United States you can survive off 7 figures and buy a cheap house on cheap property, cheap land, and survive for a minute of time. Like,
you live up the investment. You buy an annuity, it returns 5%. You buy your house in cash.
Yep.
And you just live up the annuity. I mean, you're not going to live large, but you'll live.
Exactly.
I mean,
Ricky Williams status. the legend. Moving on, Triple G versus Ryota Murata is official, December 29th. At this point, Gary, I'll be honest, this fight is looking far more even to me personally than it was maybe a year or two ago, like pre-COVID, right? But Triple G is not getting any younger. I don't think he's getting any better, obviously. And Murata's enough of a dog where, like, he's going to be in the fight, throwing back. Like, he's not going to lay down to Triple G. We're like, this could be, like, a spoiler night for Triple G. Like, Murata could win big here on a New Year's Eve, air quotes, because it's not really New Year's Eve, New Year's Eve Japanese event. Like, he could win massively here and become a Naoya Inoue level superstar, which he almost already is, to be honest.
The thing I would say... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, thoughts on Triple G Murata and, like, what it means. I mean, who's going to win, your thoughts, all that stuff.
I do feel it's a pretty even fight. The one thing I would still lean towards Triple G, and here's why. We know that Triple G's chin is legendary. Marvin Hagler good, right? Like, it's indestructible. And we know Murata's going to hit him. So I kind of feel more confident that Triple G can take Murata's best shot than I am that Murata can take Triple G's best shot, because this is not going to be defensive wizard treatment. Okay. And I'm more confident, like, okay, one of these two guys is getting knocked out. Who's it going to be? Murata. Triple G, his chin, he's beatable, but can you knock him out? Can you ice him? His chin has stood up to everything.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, those, like, I always instantly think of those clips of, like, Canelo landing, like, those monster right hooks, right? And Triple G eating it, and vice versa, like Canelo eating those shots and just keep going. Like that was legendary stuff that those two guys put on each other. I mean, you're probably right about that. That logically speaking, from what we've seen in the ring, it's safe to say Triple G should be able to take Murata's best shots, but it's questionable if Murata can take the best shots of Triple G. I just am questioning Triple G's status, so to speak. You know, like, he's a guy that's had a lot of wear and tear. Talk about a long amateur career, like I said earlier. That guy has 200-plus amateur fights. an Olympic medal, and then a professional career where he got hit a lot. That's the reality. So he's going to be one of those guys at one point, he just goes. Like, he's just not the same anymore, and he starts getting beat the fuck up. That could be against Murata, could be later down the line, but it's going to be sooner rather than later with Triple G. Like, that's just the reality.
Yeah, he could get knocked out. I mean, maybe he ages, and Murata definitely has power to do it, right? So I'm not like totally confident like that Triple G is going to win. I'm just saying if I had to lean one way or the other, I would take Triple G because I know he's durable. You're muted.
I was muted for you, Gary. The people. The people could hear me. I just forgot, but thank you for reminding me. I will admit that. It's important that you hear me. I forgot what I was going to say now, Gary. Oh, last piece of news, and then we're going to head over. But quickly, I just want to mention this because I think Gary sent this in the chat right before the show started. Foogatti tested positive for banned substances, so he was out of his fight with Dave Benavidez. Now in his place is Kyron Davis. I like that fight a lot. I think Dave Benavidez, though, is going to win it and probably beat up Davis towards the end of it. But I do like that matchup. Just want to quickly mention that. Last piece of news, and then we're going to head out of here. It looks like Devin Haney and Joseph Diaz is happening. Gary, thoughts on this fight? I mean, obviously, Joseph Diaz was supposed to fight Ryan Garcia, who allegedly broke his hand. And now we have Devin Haney versus Joseph Diaz. Thoughts?
I like this fight a lot. It's a really good fight. I think right now Diaz might be a little too gifted on the inside. I think he can box well on the outside and get himself on the inside where he can win this fight. So right now in 2021, who am I picking? I'm gonna take Jojo Diaz. But it's a great fight. This is a great fight. I think Jojo Diaz is underrated in a lot of people's eyes. Like, he's really good.
He beats Devin Haney, right?
I think he's going to be an underdog, though, because people love Devin Haney. So when his fight's announced, I'd imagine that Haney would be the betting favorite.
I mean, you're probably right that he's going to be the betting favorite, but I feel like all the boxing fans are going to pick Diaz. Because, I mean, what has Devin Haney done to make us think that he can fight on the inside with Joseph Diaz? I mean, he's looked awful as of late. Devin Haney has degressed in significant ways. He's the new Demetrius Andrade. Like, what are we talking about here? And think about this, Gary. Think about this, okay? Andrade never faced anyone that's as good as Joseph Diaz.
Never. And he's been a pro for 13 years or something like that.
Haney is going to face it early in his career, way too early, and get beat up. I'm calling it. It's happening. Any other thoughts, Gary?
I was wanting them to get William Zepeda to fight Haney. I thought that would be a good fight. Then they got Jojo Diaz. I'm like, that's even better. That's a really good fight. No, that's really it.
We're gonna head out of here, okay? I gotta run. Should be back on next week. Tuesday next week. Put it in your schedule, everyone. Guaranteed. Tuesday afternoon next week. Me and Gary will be back on. I'll try to get back on either that same day or before then for another General Strike podcast episode. I really want Gary to come back on the show.
I can come back on the show. Tuesdays are a rough day for me. I have doctor's appointment with my kids. I have Bible study at night. Like, Tuesdays are like the one day that's super rough for me. But this is the last week. This week coming up.
Okay, it's last week. Okay. So maybe following Tuesday, for sure, Tuesdays and Thursdays, I can do shows.
Unless you want to do it later.
I can always do shows late.
Want to do like 7 your time?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that.
Yeah, I can yeah, absolutely. I can always do late. Don't worry about that, Gary.
Okay.
So Tuesday next week, sometime between then and now, General Strike Podcast over on our other channel. Check out the last show I did. And if you watched that show, for those that care about it, for those that did watch that show, we watched along a clip of Vijay Prashad, who's a Marxist historian from India. I've been diving into his content lately. Highly recommend checking out anything that any of his lectures. Vijay Prashad, Vijay, Prashad, Prashad. Amazing lecturer, amazing mind, amazing intellectual. Highly recommend checking it out. What else? I think that's it. I made this announcement on Twitter. I should make it here. The next episode of History of Socialism is getting pushed back. I have probably about 30-40% left on the research for this episode. It's all about the first international period. It's all about the mid-19th century with Marx, Bakunin, the start of the anarchist-Marxist debate, all that stuff. That's going to be pushed back, and only because I'm reading other stuff right now. Apologies. I'm reading other theory, other history right now. And I'll circle back to it when I feel like I can. What else? I think that's about it. Follow me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. Hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. And remember, at all times, fuck the police and free Palestine. Gary, final thoughts.
Find me all from social media, 3D Boxing, 3D Boxing Blog. Also, Texas Boxing Scene on YouTube, completely dedicated to Texas boxing. All proceeds from that channel go to autism research and recovery. So please subscribe to that channel. Help us get that monetized up and running and all that good stuff. It is October 28th, 2021. Wow. We're quickly approaching the holiday season.
Gary, it took me this long to figure out what was really the issue with the echo and the feedback. I figured it out. We won't have that issue on the next show. It was StreamYard. There's a little button that you have to have pressed when you have a guest on. It's that echo cancellation thing.
Yeah.
You're allowed to turn off if you don't have a guest. And I apologize, Gary. Back to your outro though. It's fixed now.
Texas Boxing Scene on YouTube. Please, guys, subscribe. Help us get this monetized and up and running. It's October 28th already. We're quickly approaching the holiday season. And Ivan Calderon is somehow still not in the Boxing Hall of Fame. And this is the month that you can vote. So if you have a Hall of Fame ballot, make sure to check Ivan Calderon, get the Iron Boy in the Hall of Fame. Also, somehow, no, Texas is its own country, so I don't need to say that anymore. Texas is its own country.
It's not.
It is. It is. We're done. We're out.
We're out. All right.
Texas is a country again. Great job, guys. Great job at making Texas a country again.
It happened. All right. Peace, everyone.